in the future, it will affect how we react and respond to things. So whether we are feeling happiness or shame, that emotion comes from deep within and for a reason. What are emotions made up of? We will discuss this in more depth later in the book, but simply put, emotions are vibrations of pure energy. Every emotion has its own unique vibrational frequency. Everything in the universe is made of energy, and emotions are no exception. Quantum physics has proven that energies affect other energies. So it follows that we are affected by the energy of our emotions, simply because our bodies are also made up of energy. This simple fact is the reason our emotions can affect us so profoundly on mental, emotional, and a physical level. The emotional experience in a nutshell. 3 things happen when we experience an emotion. First, our body generates the emotional vibration. Second, we begin to feel the emotion and any thoughts or physical sensations that come along with it. And third, we choose to let the emotion go and we move on after a few seconds to several minutes. This last step is called processing. So this is where we allow the emotional energy to do what it's supposed to do in the first place. We talk about processing a lot. If you've seen me again on lives, the processing is the part of getting that emotional energy out, making use of whatever has been generated. And once it's completed, we have successfully moved on from that emotional experience, and it shouldn't cause us any problems. However, if either the second or third step is interrupted, so again, life gets busy, if something happens to stop that process, then we end up with trapped emotions. It is likely to become trapped in the body. So the energy is held because we're not doing anything with it. So I always talk about this in the lives. If we generate a very intense energy, and a lot of the negative emotional responses, as well as positive, can be, overjoy is actually on the list because it can become so intense that it actually starts to have more of a negative impact on the body than a positive one. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth later on. You generate a very intense energy. So when you generate anger, you generate a really strong physical response. Your blood pressure rises, your muscles tense up. So a lot of times when we have anger, we often, when we look more into our past, more of our primal energies would result in a fight. This is where we get fight, flight, or freeze from. We're meant to do something with the energy. Same thing if we're afraid, we either freeze up or we get into flight mode, and we need the intense energy to get us to where we want to be or to get the result that we're looking for. So when we generate that strong energy and we don't do anything with it, it's still there and it's still got that intensity, the strength, but now it's stuck. We do not yet completely understand all of the reasons that the emotions are not processed completely. It appears that more overwhelming or extreme an emotion is, the more likely it is to become trapped. However, when he said things get interrupted, that can also be one of the reasons that they become trapped. So again, something happens, you become scared, or you become fearful, or you become upset. And instead of reacting with the emotion, somebody walks into the room, you get a phone call, something happens, and you're not able to continue the process. So somebody comes in and you don't want to cry in front of that person. Maybe it's your child, your spouse, a friend. Maybe you're at work and you're very angry and you're starting to get really upset. And then your boss comes in and now you have to play it cool. Life happens and it interrupts the process. So that's one thing that can happen. Can be very other extreme emotions that he talks about, where you go through something very traumatic, and the more traumatic, like he says, the more overwhelming it is. A lot of times you simply have to physically survive the situation, the experience that you're going through, and allowing yourself to process that emotion or to do something with that energy at the time, it's just not possible. So those are ways that they become trapped. There could be other reasons, such as a weakness in the body or many old trapped emotions of a similar vibration, but we will discuss those more in depth later on. What is a trapped emotion? As much as we would like to forget some of the emotionally difficult times we've been through, the influence these events may stay with us in the form of trapped emotions. Sometimes we can consciously recall these challenging events, and sometimes we cannot. Whether you remember a painful event or not remember, it actually doesn't matter, because your subconscious mind does remember. And we can access that information by using the emotion code. Many people who have been through extreme trauma have blocked out years of their lives and remembering almost nothing, but the emotion code allows us to bypass the conscious mind completely. Instead, we can access this vital information about the trapped emotions from the subconscious mind. Each time you trap an emotion, you get stuck in the middle of whatever traumatic event you were experiencing. So instead of moving beyond your angry moment or your temporary bout of grief or depression, you retain this negative emotional energy within your body. It's just constantly there, always vibrating, potentially causing significant physical and emotional stress. Most people are amazed to find that their emotional baggage is more literal than they had imagined. Trapped emotions actually consist of well-defined energies that have a shape and a form. Although they are not visible, they are very real. So again, we know that those experiences were traumatic, and a lot of times, sometimes we block them out completely so we don't remember them, or we don't want to remember details. We don't want to relive the specifics because it's too painful, it's too overwhelming, it's too traumatic for us. And again, trauma is very individual, but the subconscious mind doesn't act in the same way as the conscious mind. And so emotion code is very good because you can bypass the conscious mind. So it's not the same as having to go through years of talk therapy, which is very beneficial. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't use that, but instead of having to relive all those moments in detail to allow those things to process out, emotion code can help you find what emotions are there that you're still carrying and allow you to start releasing them. And while yes, you will go through a processing time, you will have to allow that energy to come out in some way, shape, or form. And I talk about it in write-ups at the end of full sessions. I tell people things that can help with the processing time, which is drinking a little extra water, getting extra rest, some gentle exercise like walking. If you're used to more intense things, that's fine too. But just sort of allowing yourself to rest, to recognize any emotions. You can get echoes of that negative emotional energy. So while you're releasing it, you may not have to relive all